There we go. Hello, and welcome to Millennial Anti-Terrorizers. And today we're going to be talking about those who have been relieved from command. And today, why don't we just start off with you, Beth? Do you know anybody that's been relieved of command before?
I have. I remember closer to when I was getting out, there was this base commander. I don't know his name or anything. I would have to look that up, but it was definitely in the Cherry Point Gazette or something. I forgot what the paper was called at the local news, but this base commander got pulled over the night before he was relieved of his command for a DUI. Right after, he just gave a safety brief to the entire base saying, like, when we get our safety briefs before we go on to the weekend, right? Don't drink, don't drive. If you rap it, tap it, kind of those little things. And yet, he ended up getting pulled over by local police, even though he wasn't like drunk or anything, but he had alcohol in his system when they did the breathalyzer, and that's where he got caught. So the next day is when it came out saying, hey, base commander just got pulled over for this DUI. What they did is, instead of like obviously like kicking him out of the military, they just relieved him of his command, even though he had just gotten this command, by the way. I don't remember how long he had it, like within a month period at least, just got it and was already relieved of his duty. So obviously he didn't get to take over anybody else's. I don't know what they did with him, but that was a really big deal. Like everybody was talking about it. And because of that, we had tons of more safety briefs, which is the death by PowerPoint. So they were trying to reiterate, even the highest ranking, doesn't matter who you are, you're still being held accountable. So that's the whole reason why they wanted us to kind of talk about what happened. So that was our
Oh, okay.
spell.
How about you, Alex? Do you remember if anybody got relieved of command when you were there in the Marine Corps?
Um, I don't think so, because I don't think anybody had that come up. The only one is that staff sergeant I was talking about. She just had that, couldn't lead the troops really without letting her emotions get intact and involved too much. And she wasn't relieved of anything. It was just more of a, hey, you hit the gunny board too many times and didn't get the promotion, so now you have to be stepped out. You gotta this is you're gonna finish up your last enlistment here, and then you have to get out.
Yeah,
But that's
okay.
not like being relieved or nothing. That's just like, hey, you're not hitting. And but the reason given though was, this is why you're not making gunny. You can't keep your shit in check, and you're taking it out on the Marines. And we've had multiple incidences and stuff like this, and we've seen it. You're not getting gunny, and this is your third denial of being denied from the gunny board. So now you're hitting that, I think, 15, 16. So when she hit her, the 16 years in, and, she was still just a staff sergeant and got denied from the gunny board multiple times, it was like, you got to get out after this enlistment.
Okay.
Early retirement or some shit.
Oh, okay. Early retirement. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I've gotten to see one of those, a retirement ceremony for like a master gunnery sergeant. That was pretty cool.
oh, nice. Yeah, I've been to one of those. It was a sergeant major that was retired out of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Hamby, and then he reactivated for Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 and came back to the battalion because the battalion had not received their new battalion sergeant major because we were basically a couple months out from receiving our boots to give us 50% strength of our battalion. So we were only half the size. And because of all that, he came back and everything, and it was just kind of a shit show, a chain of command. Around that time frame, though, if anybody watches Generation Kill, they hear the term RCT1, Regimental Combat Team 1, and Regimental Combat Team 1 was the regiment that I was in. Colonel Downing was not aggressive enough. So General Mattis, no shit, relieved him of command and took away his sidearm. And they talk about that in Generation Kill. And that was our regimental commander. And they bring in a new regimental commander. I'd even seen somebody in boot camp where it wasn't relieved of command, but it was relieved of duty. And basically the same thing, right? Where somebody in boot camp refuses to train, and it's like, okay, you're relieved of duty in boot camp. You sure you want to do this? You're getting ready to get kicked out, and it's not going to be good. Um, there was one more incident where he was a lance corporal and a sergeant took away his Walkman and in the process broke it. And when he broke it, I guess like he racked around in a rifle and took an aggressive stance. I don't think he pointed it at him, but you know what I mean? Um, he got to go to the brig over that. So there was various degrees of relieved of duty sent to the brig and relieved of command, like Colonel Downing. Do you guys remember anybody that was also might have been relieved of duty? Failure to train, Beth?
More so in boot camp, like you were saying. Because the girls, obviously, it's a culture shock. So when a lot of us initially get there, it's just like the excuses, constantly going to medical, finding some way to get out of training. It's to the point they're either going to throw you into like this platoon for separation, or even if it's medically too, or you're going to continue to train and just get through it. But it's to the point is some of the girls just would not do it. And so instead of just relieving them of just the platoon, they relieve them out of the Marine Corps. It's like, we're done trying to get you to transition and kind of like do your job. Since you don't want to do it, now you're going to get discharged, but it's never like honorably, it's dishonorably. So it really affects you when they get out. So that's kind of the things I've seen, but nobody of their duty of like higher ups or anything like that, other than that. I'm pretty sure it's like a major or some kind of lieutenant or a colonel from that base. But yeah, we didn't have really much of anybody, just boot camp girls not wanting to do anything because they're too soft.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Alex? You come across anybody that was relieved of duty because of whatever actions they may or may not committed?
Um, Not really on that one either. I mean, not unless they fucked up,
Well, yeah, that's what I
you
mean. There's
know.
somebody that fucked
But
up and they
like,
got pretty much kicked out.
oh yeah, man, like that
Yeah.
incident I was telling you about, wasn't everybody's fault or anything, but what they did was that whole everybody in the company that was out partying or drinking at that bar got fucking spiked and shit. The ones that were below the pay grade, yeah, they got kicked out. You know, I believe they had to go through court and marshal and do all that stuff to like get it to be at least other than honorable
Yeah.
because it wasn't their fault. And then the higher ranks got they didn't get relieved of command. It was there was some swapping. Hey, you're going to go be the commander of this unit now. That we're just going to swap the commanders, the leaders. If it was any officer or high enlisted that got caught on that. Yeah, man, I was just there drinking, and oh well, okay, well we're gonna because you got the career going and all. They just transfer them over to another unit. But anybody that was like corporal and below, sergeant maybe below, they were either getting busted down or they were being kicked out.
Yeah. That reminds
Nolan, let me go
me.
back to mine real quick, Nolan. No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, now that I know what you were expecting of us to say. No, there was a lot for me, actually, not just boot camp, now that you explained it. Um, I'll start with something that happened to a couple things that happened to me first, and then what I've seen as well. First one was coming back from Iraq, actually, my first tour. My best friend, like it was a group of friends I would hang out. They kind of took me in when I first got into the fleet, just before I went to Iraq, actually, is when I got there. So this group of friends, one of my friends got promoted to corporal. A lot of them did as soon as we got back from Iraq. A lot of my friends got promoted to corporal. I got Lance Corporal as we went over there. But anyways, we were at the enlisted club bar is what it's called. And a lot of them were in corporal's course. So there's like me and 3 other guys. But anyways, 2 of them left, and me and my best friend, who is actually married, by the way, let me make that clear. He was married, just being a gentleman because we were drinking, was walking me back to my barracks. He essayed me the next day. But anyways, as the whole thing went on, because I filed a complaint against him, it ended up going into a trial. What he did, because he was getting ready to get out of the military just when we got back home, because of this happening to me and what he did, the whole trial kept him on what's called legal hold. So he couldn't get out of the Marine Corps until this whole trial was done. But when the trial was done, he was convicted of SA. I'm not going to say the word, obviously, but he got demoted from corporal, I want to say private, or maybe PFC. Anyways, they stripped him of his rank. He was in the brig for, I don't remember how long he was in the brig for. They took pay from him, and not just on the military side. His wife divorced him. When he got out, he got dishonorable discharged. And why I remember how it affected him outside is because he found me on social media and told me how, because of this, is he's now got a felony as a civilian in life. So it affects his job and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I found out. So because of that, this affected him like for the rest of his life for what he did in the Marine Corps to me back in 2005, for instance. So that was a really big deal. It went on for almost a year, this whole trial that went on, but I'm not going to get into that. That was just one incident. But then there was an incident where I got in trouble. I wasn't like relieved of my duty, but I too had a DUI because a year later from that incident, what I just gave that story, I chose to drink and drive, not by choice, but because I was getting away from a bad situation. I'm not going to go into that one as well right now, but just moving forward, I got pulled over at the gate. So thank God I didn't get pulled over by like local police. So because I didn't get pulled over by local police, I don't get double trouble. I just get in trouble by the military. They did handcuff me and blah, blah, blah. I was at corporal at that time. I had just gotten promoted. They took corporal and I got demoted to Lance Corporal. They took some pay. I was on like restriction, whatever. So that's something like where I got not relieved of command, but I got demoted. So who were my troops ended up get promoted, and it was like kind of a reverse effect. I was now their troop, and it was really rough. So that was a really big lesson in disguise, just to not drink and drive regardless, because having my troops treat me like crap where I didn't do it to them, it was just a lesson learned. I'm like, yeah, that happened to me. But there's a lot of things too when I was a legal adjutant as well, or not, I'm sorry, not an adjutant, a clerk. So seeing some of the things that came through, I've seen lieutenants when they were on news essaying or just verbally essaying women as well on ship. So I had to read a lot of this paperwork. There was another corporal who got a DUI, but because he had such a good record, they ended up sticking up for him. So he ended up not losing his rank, but they did give him some kind of restriction and stuff like that. So those are the things that would come through for me. But the big one that stuck out the most was a staff sergeant. By the way, it's a lot of drugs and alcohol that I saw come through, and domestic violence sometimes as well. But the staff sergeant was also a DUI kind of guy. He got caught out in town, so he got double trouble between civilian and us. They were actually going to process him out anyways because, one, he was already overweight. He had like a reputation for not meeting weight standards, passing PFTs already. So now that we got this DUI, it was already looking like a bad example for leadership. So they were going to kick him out of the Marine Corps. And while I was sitting in my office, he used to come in and cause so much trouble for me because he still holds the rank of staff sergeant, and I was a sergeant at the time. But just telling me how crappy this was for him and how dare they do. I was like, I wasn't even having it with him. Like, I finally just not chewed him out like disrespectfully, but just kind of like told him like, hey, you need to stop what you're doing. This is why you're in your own situation. It's nobody else's fault but yours, kind of thing. So I told him like, you need to go sit down in our mailroom office and just mind your business. Like, nobody wanted to be around this guy because for how toxic he was by blaming everybody else for what he could not fix. So those are the things that kind of caught my attention. What about you, Nolan?
Wow. So in my platoon in Iraq, uh, there was a staff sergeant, and he did a hazing incident. And hazing incidences were pretty much the norm in the battalion. Pushing limits. And for instance, this staff sergeant made my driver run around the vehicles with a football in the air in full body armor in the middle of summer in Iraq until he went down as a heat casualty. And so there was a court martial, and he was relieved of command, and he was sent to battalion. Uh, he eventually caught a felony also. He had picked up gunny, so he was on the gunny board, and he had lost gunny rank, and he decided to get out as a staff sergeant. He had not completed his 20 years at that point. He was like at 17 years in at that point. And then there was an incident with me where I, oh goodness, I can't even remember what I did right. I remember I was puking, and I was in Kenya. And that's right. I remember now. We were doing gun drills, or not gun drills. We were doing patrol drills with the machine guns, getting the machine guns up to contact left, contact right, contact front, contact rear. Machine guns usually are in the middle of a patrol, or they're in the rear of a patrol. And I was having issues with drinking the water, and it was in Kenya in the summertime, so it was like 99% humidity. And basically, I told the lieutenant to go fuck himself because I told him I wasn't going to have a thermometer stuck up my ass. They were trying to give me a silver bullet. And I was conscious, right? And what had happened was the company gunny had already told the corpsman to have me sit in the shade and drink water. So, because the company element told me to do something, it was higher rank than an officer, so I didn't have to do it, or a platoon commander, which is a platoon element. I didn't have to do it, but I did get in trouble for being disrespectful, and I had to do like 2 months working in the scullery on ship in the chief's mess. And I did that for a little bit there for punishment, but they didn't take charges against me on that one. But they did at that point take away my ammunition from my 9mm because I was a machine gunner, so I didn't have an M16. I had a M9 Beretta and a M240 Golf machine gun, and we didn't have any ammo for the machine gun at the time. Um, but it was kind of insulting how it all went down. But like I was able to hydrate and get back into working, that night on the next patrol because I remember going on the patrol that night. So it wasn't like I was down for a few days. I was only down for, maybe 3 hours just hydrating and then getting back up in there and doing training with the Kenyan Army. Um, so that was going to bring us to our story. Our story today was you guys apparently there was a vice admiral assigned to NATO, and she was relieved of command. They said she was a diversity uh, supporter, and conservatives are going after her. That's one side of the story. But another side of the story is they also heard where she didn't put up a picture of President Trump on chain of command. And the
Yeah.
second story was that she told her staff, don't worry, just wait it out the 4 years, basically saying, you know, don't don't worry, don't worry about the current administration. And there's been another fire that I've read where the Space Force commander, which was a colonel in Greenland, has been relieved of command, basically talking smack on the current administration. Now, when you guys were uh, Alex, do you remember specifically being told not to be taking a political side while in uniform or anything like that? Have you ever heard anything like that where you're not told not to do these things?
I'll say something,
Yeah, it's
actually.
called.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
going to
oh,
say, I had two administrations. I had Bush and then I had Obama. More so on the Bush side because when we go to Iraq, we get a lot of the news crews sometimes out there. Because we had President Bush actually come out there on his Air Force One, so they were always saying, "Don't say anything, whether even if the reporters are talking to you or anything, because it's like anything you say can reflect back on the Marine Corps as a whole." Is what their biggest thing is. So or even just America, depending on what you're saying, I guess. So we were always told just keep your mouth shut. It wasn't even about political either. Just they just wanted to make sure we didn't say something that could affect us long term. But when we were on the aircraft, I remember the news crew was in there. They were getting ready and stuff. There was a lot of I don't know who they were. The chefs were definitely in there, but a couple of his officials might have been in there just kind of preparing while he was getting ready to do an interview there in Al Assad, Iraq. That's what I
Oh,
remember.
really?
But as far as
Okay.
Obama went, yeah, same concept. You're never allowed to, I mean, you can have your opinion, but you're not allowed to say it out loud. I mean, if it's like within private amongst ourselves, we might just BS, but never when there's people listening.
How about
Alex?
you, Alex? Do you remember anything
Uh,
like that where you were told to stay, politically neutral in the military?
yeah, that was the whole reason why I don't vote, man. When I was in, I was just like, I don't give a shit because whoever is in office is, you know, the political thing. I think I said this in boot camp to the drill instructor. I was like, the political thing just shows that you're gonna have more loyal side to something or another, not to the cause, not to the country as a whole. So I was like, doesn't matter who I vote for. Whoever's in office is where my that's who's telling us what to do. So I was like, I almost think like us as veteran in the military, you shouldn't, like they say, they take all of our other constitutional rights away. Well, then the voting shouldn't really come to matter. I was also in boot camp when the whole voting thing went down too. So I was like, I don't have time for that, man. I'd rather go train. You want me to fill out this form? Like I could be cleaning my weapon, doing my rack, getting this going. You know, I just wasn't thinking about or caring about it. So like my whole thing on it was don't. I wouldn't be choosing a side either way.
Yeah.
Y'all are fucked.
America,
Y'all,
not the president.
I look at it like I am Doctor Doom in the making, and don't worry. One day there'll be a little thing come out, a little memo to you guys. Hey, I need a few officers, generals, actually. And it's a little. Hey, man, I'm writing my own book, you guys. My own book. You know what I'm saying? So, no, I didn't really. Yeah, I didn't give too much about it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would have thought of was I don't know who was the other dude running. It was Obama's second term, or yeah, he was uh going up for his second term when I went to boot camp.
Okay.
So I don't remember who
Mitt
the other
Romney,
dude
I think.
was. Yeah, I didn't
Mitt
really care
Romney.
about that guy, so I was just like, I don't give a shit. It's a South Park outlook, man. Yeah, between a douche and a giant a turd sandwich and a giant douche. I don't know, man. Like either way,
I
Willis.
I remember. There was nothing wrong with us wearing our uniforms to church and stuff like that. With our families. But I remember I was on a recruiter's assistant, and at the time there was a pro-war, and across the street there was an anti-war movement going on. And this is in 2003. So there was only, 10 on each side kind of thing. And I told my recruiter, I says, hey, how about we get some donuts? And and you drop me off and I go to the other side and I give the pro war protesters or supporters or whatever you call them some donuts, but I get dropped off on the anti-war one, act like I'm going to give them some donuts and then cross the street. He says, "Yeah, you can't do that in uniform." Uh,
Awesome.
he says, "Yeah, if you're going to do something like that, you got to do that out of uniform. That's
Right.
that's a political statement. You weren't allowed to do anything like that. You're only allowed to do that out of uniform." Uh, and so that was the way I was told back in 2003, that if you're going to do anything like that with it, you have to see a what is it? Political or public relations, a PR officer, public relations officer. And I actually met one when I was at Bethesda Naval Hospital. One briefed us like, "Hey, the president's coming, so behave yourself. You need a shave," kind of thing.
Actually, it looked like a Marine.
So, what do you guys think about the administration cleaning house with the heavy chain of command, with going in there and getting rid of the progressive liberal officers that are in the chain of command, I guess, right now, that are being political about it? Because you're not supposed to be political, you're supposed to be neutral about it. What do you think
Yeah.
about that, Beth?
Honestly, I'm watching a lot of it because it's so. I keep forgetting between the Republicans and Democrats. I don't really pay attention to that part. I just see the good and the evil. It's like as soon as we try to do something good for America, everybody else is throwing a fit like a child. So when we were talking about the cyber trucks that one time, or people just, I've been seeing videos about the whole pride flag, like covering like maps in these, what do you want to call it, the classrooms and stuff like that, or not promoting correct history anymore. And it's still about the propaganda of LBG. No offense to them, by the way, but how the transgenders, we need to still mutilate them. It's all this woke stuff that they're trying to still promote. And because Trump going in, he's like, no more trans, no more men and women sport. He's like trying to bring everything back to a basis or balance things out the way it should have been back then, because it's only within the 4 years everything exploded and everybody seemed to have an opinion and everybody's offended. So by him like stepping up and just cleaning house is what I call it, and stopping the nonsense, honestly, I trust him a little bit more. Yeah, there's still things going on. I still wish were going happening with the grocery prices, for instance, or gas prices. But in my mind, how I think about it, because everybody's still complaining why it hasn't happened, I'm like, there's always steps to take. And I trust him enough because I see what he's doing, that he has to take care of the bigger picture first before we can take up the little things down here. The whole change of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. I mean, everybody's got their opinions, but maybe it's a good thing. I don't know, but I'm very
Oh, that's
excited to
just
see
for
what's been
political
happening
reasons.
finally.
That's only because they want to drill in the Gulf of Mexico.
Is that
So if
what it
they
was?
change
Yeah,
it to
see, I don't
Gulf
know
of
much about.
America, it gets rid of previous laws that you can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico
That
regulations.
too,
So
and
it's kind
they're
of a
saying
joke.
it is. I'm like, that was a really big thing. I was like, okay, that didn't feel like it was really necessary at the moment to take care of. So that's why I was like, but everything else, I'm just like, he's getting stuff done like on day one. Like, finally, we got a leader, not a boss. And that's the stuff I think a lot of us veterans take pride in, is that's what we were looking for. Someone to take the step forward that we needed as America versus what's going to benefit these people's pockets and how they can make money off of us. And it's just like, no, it's not how America works. And so I'm like, he's finally being the voice that we needed all this time.
All right. Alex, I'll
Alex?
let you have the last word. What do you think about all this, where they're going through and they're cleaning out the diversity, supportive, progressive leadership in there in the
Well, like,
military right now?
like we were saying about the whole politics shit, is like, you're joining an organization, not recreating it. So, we're in the business of fucking saving lives, fighting wars, and protecting the country, not where your political stance is, how you identify yourself. What I find it is it makes our military feel or seem a little weak. You need to like put on the persona that you're Billy Badass, you're John Rambo, And because when you're in uniform, the biggest thing too when I was in was doing anything in uniform and posting it up. Like you see on like TikTok and shit nowadays, it's like, dude, you catch an NJP quick, fast, in a
Yeah.
fucking hurry, just putting one up, because now you know it's just I know we get the stigma. Oh, look, the Marines, look, the crayon eaters. But it's like, dude, I get that shit from civilians at work, and after about a day of hearing it, and it goes into a week, I'm about to rip a fucking throat out, because I'm like, you're a fucking goddamn civilian, dude. And oh, I see videos being posted up on TikTok and this and Instagram and all that, and I'm like, oh, because of these fucking knuckleheads. So no wonder why people look at Marines and think we're just a bunch of dumbasses and really don't know nothing, and we were stupid, and that's why we joined the fucking Marine Corps. Because I had to sit there and tell you what, dude, I had to pass the fucking ASVAB with above 30, and I had to take it multiple times, and then I start looking at that and going, yo, man, I really actually had to like have intelligence, be out of trouble, not be in a gang, not have tattoos, not have a criminal record, and not be associated and affiliated with people that were like that in order to get in the fucking Marine Corps. It was like trying to get into fucking Harvard, dude. And so, like, after a while, I sit there and go, dude, and like I say, when you see those videos and people just acting like knuckleheads and fucking retards, and it's like, for one, operation security, two, you're bad imaging the military or your branch. I mean,
Yeah. I
three,
100% understand.
I would just say three, it goes back to operation security. Like the main thing, that the reason why they told us not to do stuff like that is because of operation security. They didn't want the enemy and other people that aren't in the military knowing what our uniform looks like and how we wear it and what things are, because in the glance that you're doing all that shit, it's like, oh, okay, I can catch how to do that. And then the other aspect of it is, yeah, not to be like putting the military or your unit in a spot where it's like, oh yeah, this is how we stand, this is what we're behind, and it's like, no, dude, like, you're all right to have your own opinion and your individual, but when it comes to, you got the uniform on and you're doing shit, be professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
You stand for
All
something
right.
else.
Well, that pretty much wraps up our episode for people been relieved of command or relieved of duty. And thank you for listening in on Millennial Anti-Terrorizers. Have a good thing, and make sure you like and subscribe down below. Thank you.